The Autobiography of John D. Rockefeller. Chapter 1. Some Old Friends. Since these reminiscences are really what they profess to be, random and informal, I hope I may be pardoned for setting down so many small things. In looking back over my life, the impressions which come most vividly to my mind are mental pictures of my old associates. In speaking of these friends in this chapter, I would not have it thought that many others, of whom I have not spoken, were less important to me, and I shall hope to refer to this subject of my early friends in a later chapter. It is not always possible to remember just how one first met an old friend, or what one's impressions were, but I shall never forget my first meeting with John D. Archbold, who is now a vice president of the Standard Oil Company. At that time, say 35 or 40 years ago, I was traveling about the country visiting the point where something was happening, talking with the producers, the refiners, the agents, and actually getting acquainted. One day, there was a gathering of the men somewhere near the oil regions, and when I came to the hotel, which was full of oil men, I saw this name writ large on the register: John D. Archbold, $4 a barrel. He was a young and enthusiastic fellow, so full of his subject that he added his slogan, $4 a barrel, after his signature on the register, that no one might misunderstand his convictions. The battle cry of $4 a barrel was all the more striking because crude oil was selling then for much less, and this campaign for a higher price certainly did attract attention. It was much top good to be true. But if Mr. Archbold had to admit in the end that crude oil is not worth $4 a barrel, his enthusiasm, his energy, and his splendid power over men have lasted. He has always had a well-developed sense of humor, and on one serious occasion, when he was on the witness stand, he was asked by the opposing lawyer, "Mr. Archbold, are you a director of this company?" "I am." "What is your occupation in this company?" He promptly answered, "To clamor for dividends," which led the learned counsel to start afresh on another line. I can never cease to wonder at his capacity for hard work. I do not often see him now, for he has great affairs on his hands, while I live like a farmer away from active happenings in business, playing golf, planting trees, and yet I am so busy that no day is long enough. Speaking of Mr. Archbold leads me to say again that I have received much more credit than I deserve in connection with the Standard Oil Company. It was my good fortune to help to bring together the efficient men who are the controlling forces of the organization, and to work hand in hand with them for many years, but it is they who have done the hard tasks. The great majority of my associations were made so many years ago that I have reached the age when hardly a month goes by, sometimes I think hardly a week, that I am not called upon to send some message of consolation to a family with whom we have been connected, and who have met with some fresh bereavement. Only recently I counted up the names of the early associates who have passed away. Before I had finished, I found the list numbered some 60 or more. They were faithful and earnest friends. We had worked together through many difficulties, and had gone through many severe trials together. We had discussed and argued and hammered away at questions until we came to agree, and it has always been a happiness to me to feel that we had been frank and above board with each other. Without this, business associates cannot get the best out of their work. It is not always the easiest task to induce strong, forceful men to agree. It has always been our policy to hear patiently and discuss frankly until the last shred of evidence is on the table, before trying to reach a conclusion and to decide finally upon a course of action. In working with so many partners, the conservative ones are apt to be in the majority, and this is no doubt a desirable thing when the mere momentum of a large concern is certain to carry it forward. The men who have been very successful are correspondingly conservative, since they have much to lose in case of a disaster. But fortunately, there are also the aggressive and more daring ones, and they are usually the youngest in the company, perhaps few in number, but impetuous and convincing. They want to accomplish things and to move quickly, and they don't mind any amount of work or responsibility. I remember, in particular, an experience when the conservative influence met the progressive, shall I say, or the daring side. At all events, this was the side I represented in this case.